water wishes water like dust to dust. The sun has got his hat on. Is it made of the earth's crust? Money. The conspiracy that has us believing that we are the theory not to be believed. Our credibility relieved of its duty to make believe our truth is beauty. Not just to be seen, to behold, but to be cherished in the common fold. Have we been dangling so long on the end of this line that we've been sold that there's no such thing as the common fold? That we can no longer be bold? Now that life is the penalty? If life is a penalty, are we really dying? Or just living? And if giving is receiving, can we make the truth and stop believing? Money, the conspiracy. Money, a performance-enhancing substance that's put us in our place in the closing stages of our race. And it must have felt so much like it all just begun after that last world peace was won. Never again for money to reign in the absolute, with the power to mute, to degrade, and starve into submission, decency, humanity and dignity for the sake of money's silent partner, fascism. Money, the conspiracy. Okay, I know that's not quite correct, but it does rhyme with alibi. It wasn't you or me. How could it be we? Surely not I. We're the species of the alibi, from totemic mitigation through prophetic inspiration to money circulation. It's not you or me. How could it be we? And surely not I. Money, the conspiracy. An abstract surrogacy, the mother we never had. Oh, well, nature never wanted us. Not really. And she is a bit touchy-feely. Joke. Money, the conspiracy. The final frontier of theories not to be believed. I dare you. I will if you will. Can it be as difficult as it seems for a species self-domesticating through our shared waking dreams? Where shadows cast figures and smoke without fire fuels our schemes. Money, the conspiracy. As theories go, I've heard worse. Would you believe me if I told you it was the premise of a prize-winning verse? First prize and publishing deal. Oh, some financial security at last. How does that feel? Got the contract in the post the other day. Don't know how many times I read it. I thought I might bring it here to read to you today. But I didn't. No. I tore it up and I threw it away. Why? Well, I'd like to say it was a matter of conscience and consistency, not having those words possessed by money's conspiracy. But if I told you that, I would be fibbing. Because what it was, you see, this prize-winning verse was full of metaphors, like keeping the wolf from these doors. And this contract had a clause, a metaphors clause. If any metaphors turned out to be fact, end of contract. And how was I supposed to know some 30-odd years ago the wolf had actually been reintroduced to these shores? Talk about last straws. I am up for that, by the way, but I really think we should stop sucking through them anymore. I thought if I could find out who was to blame, there might be a loss of earnings claim. I visit the offices of one of those firms you see advertised on the TV, no win, no fee. Office? It was a facade. A familiar-looking gentleman came in. He had the air of the Marquis de Sade, but he wasn't. He gave me his card. Mr. S. Holmes. Sherlock. He tied me to a chair, turned on this bright light, started talking to me as you'd expect, like I wasn't all there, but with this werewolf stare and a voice that didn't sound like him. And I'm not just saying that just because I can't do the impersonation. You got that cockamamie, everyone's against me, self-flagellating theory look in your eyes, have I? Have I? all conspiracy and lies. I spare me the whys and wherefores. The wolf reintroduced to these shores. How sure to guess to replace those 3 lions with something indigenous on all 4s, huh? With teeth and fur, but not claws. Wolves don't have claws. But I said, slight trepidation. But I said, like lions, wolves do have paws. No, not paws. Paws! He gestured for me to hand him my mobile. I did. He put my mobile and his mobile in a soundproof box. His voice, his whole demeanour changed. He said, I'm so sorry to come across there like some kind of werewolf Zionist Israeli. I'm not in the slightest bit like that for really. It's a BBC-friendly pretense I'm having to maintain to avoid the surveillance. The surveillance? Anyway, he said I might have a claim. Really. The wolf was reintroduced to these shores, but not literally. It was an attempt by the establishment some 30-odd years ago to reduce the figures of poverty on these islands to an all-time low, figuratively. The wolf wasn't actually released into the wild. Such places a lone parent or carer would always accompany a child. And the poor, well, the wolf, you see, can't be relied upon in the reduction of adult poverty. The prowess of the wolf is somewhat fabled, unless that adult was alone, weak with hunger, and or disabled. Stories spread of impoverished parental acts of selfless heroism. Whoa, that can't be allowed, can it? That might create some kind of moral, ideological prism, the poor shown in such a light. It might insightful fill minds awash with newspaper ink swill, and who knows what such insight might instill. It might place in jeopardy this unwritten policy. Vis-a-vis a chord might be struck that resonates back to that stand that we took alone when European fascism was gaining currency. Alone we faced invasion, ruin and bankruptcy. A people not too big to fail. No financial institutions forthcoming with rescue package solutions for to bail. It's hard to say, it's going to be difficult to hear, but it would appear it was neither here nor there to this money if we did or didn't prevail. But prevail we did. As the dollar accrued enough leverage to screw down tight that lid on the old world empires of racial persecution and supremacy with a post-war policy of dictatorships for democracy when it suited. And with peace at last came a loss of patience on money's license to pass off them as us and us as them until peace at last recast the shadow of that incredulous class. The common good. Isn't that an oxymoron? And with peace at last came a loss of patience en masse with money's license to pass off peace as war and war as peace. Still a binding lease with so many prices to pay. Just one that gives the right to say, a people's war begets a people's peace. Loud and proud that phrase can be heard. 2 minutes without a word. At the annual memory letting stone, 2 minutes silence, downloadable as a ringtone. I think we should answer that. Because if sacrifice is money's antithesis, beyond measures praxis, then sacrifice is the axis on which our story turns. Our action spurns alibis, reflections, to follow dignity's directions. So the wolf made itself scarce in letters offshore, salivating for money's more, money's more, money's more, money's more. Across the pond waited, breath baited, laid in wait for that wartime sense of predation to abate. And the wolf laid in wait for a generation to translate sacrifice through pomp and ceremony's bait. Pitter patter, pitter patter. Comrades in arms. In the mouths of our leaders, minus the munitions, that expression quickly begins to lose its charms. Comrades in arms, they relish that phrase, and how it embalms heroism's enflamed cooperation as war, just as war, as nation, just as nation. Pitter patter, pitter patter. Those sacrifices that were made, did they have a half-life of 30-odd years before they began to fade into a background sound, only to be heard in those 2 minutes without a word? Pitter patter, echoed those paws to the banks where the royal prerogative was used to get around those draconian child protection rules, or wolves were released into schools. Not all schools, of course. That might lead to a spate of divorce amongst bankers and their MPs. They can deal with that exemption being used to increase school fees. Because what is money for? If not to keep the wolf from money's door. A half-life of 30-odd years. Let's remember to forget. Let's remember to let go. Yeah, it was all probably just a guileless collective loss of memory. No unwritten policy, no conspiracy. The establishment were just wary of their media chums, mocking bylines and sniggers. Nothing sinister, like avoiding coming on TV to make denials like, these wolves are merely nursery rhyme figures. I don't recall when I was a young man any stories on the local or national news of wolves disembarking with expressions on their faces like they've got nothing to lose, seeking out the vulnerable while wandering up and down our beaches. Well, that couldn't happen, could it? Because we would fight them on them, wouldn't we? So history teaches, in those iconic speeches, with layer upon layer of that plural possessive adjective that reaches to create a sense of commonality, whose, that beseeches time to be a reality possessed of a self-possessing power. Our time? As if time was rebooted for those for whom it had previously suited, time to be instituted in its passing solely in the amassing of fortunes, pillaged and looted, money made in the shade of the empire's parade, handing out flags, poised to wave. First comes the shallow grave, followed by the sounds of the mass grave. Oh, there's the regal wave, for the fly swan passed in close formation of early grave after 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 early grave. Cheer for the unmarked grave, there, forever, somewhere. And a courageous attempt at a wave, oh, and a cheer for those taking up the rear, the pauper's grave. Eyes to the right for money's crusade that converts to degrade life, to dig its own. The imperial, searing, never-setting sun. Suddenly time became one. Our time. Our finest hour. So far? Are we still taking of breaths which were given, that we might not be enwaged as the property of that tyranny? Or is that no longer physically a possibility? Has this air, since those sacrifices, been cleansed, replenished completely? So now that consensus sensuality of air that once filled this, along with a commonality, a duty of care for the generation to come, not to bear, not to be enwaged, as the property of the tyranny of property. Rising with the tide, or just a memory? Sacrifices agitation to obligate, to agitate, to obligate. Let's remember to forget. Let's remember to let go of now. A difficult time that we're not ready to face. Not yet. Whoa, not now. Let's remember, if sacrifice is money's antithesis, beyond the measure's praxis, and sacrifice is the axis on which our story turns. A generation learns and forgets. Learns and lets go of now, that difficult time that we're not ready to face. Whoa, not yet, not now. Let's remember how it was when it wasn't now. Yes! Oh, just me then. When it wasn't a time of regret. Remembering wasn't done to forget, it was how the present and the future met. In a resonance of remembrance beyond ceremony, shared losses antidote to war's alchemy. Let's remember to breathe in, to breathe out, to share. Our breath is the air, but not the other way around, or we'd be in trouble. Serious trouble. Again, money does reign in the absolute, with the prerogative to loot and to riot through our bodies, our soil, our food, our air, our homes, our communities on the quiet, rampaging on the QT, havocing money's insecurity into the lonely family, smashed and grabbed, youthful suicide slabbed. Polluting is not like looting our children's future. In no way does it resemble a riot. It is comparatively quiet. Let's go dancing in the streets and defy it. Money, the conspiracy that has us believing that we're the theory not to be believed. Our credibility deceived of its duty to make believe our truth is beauty. Not just to be seen, to be sold, but to be cherished. Let's enfold them and wrap them up in swaddling, adorned with flowers from wreaths red and black. Don't let them see the courage that we lack, and lay them down by the annual memory-letting stone, and whisper lullabies of the unknown known. We're not just going to be memories on their phone. Their pride in what we're doing for them will carry us with them into the unknown known. There now. There now. And they'll remember to forget. And they'll remember to let go of now, that difficult time that we're not ready to face.